And we are live.
Sweet. Thank you, everybody, for joining us back here with Top Tier Podcast. Today we have Alex Quezada. Y'all know we've been getting super obsessed with self-storage, and Alex is our proof of concept. Alex owns, I think, almost 15 parks.
I have acquired 15. I sold 3, so I still hold 12.
Okay. Well, I think that's good enough. And we're here to learn today from Alex. Alex has got multiple other things going on. He's working on different projects. He has a 2-day workshop coming up this week. So long story short, we are here to learn from Alex today, and I'm really excited to have him here. So Alex, thank you so much for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Of course. My pleasure.
Yeah. I'm fired up. I'm fired up for this too. Just also because I don't really know a huge, deep background of Alex, like what got him into self-storage, what kind of led down that road. I was just with Pace Morby here last week, and he had mentioned, I think you were like student number 70. It was like super premature.
Yeah. I was early, like the first May, which he thinks started in like February, March. So I joined in like May 2020, I think.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Super early. And I mean, we share a community, and that's how we connected here. That's what's beautiful about these kind of communities. You can tap into rock stars like yourself. And I'm excited to hear the journey of what you did and kind of where it originated. I know you're out in Orlando, Florida. And so maybe you can give us a little bit of a background of like, hey, here's kind of my background of getting into maybe real estate. Did it always start out with commercial? Did it always start out with self-storage? Was that always the vision? You're like, dude, I love boxes and this is my jam? Or was it single families? Like for me, it started out single family, short-term rental. I thought I was going to be that guy, and it's turned into something completely different. So I guess maybe paint that picture.
For sure. Yeah. So I started, I graduated school with a finance degree and heard a ad on the radio for how to buy houses with no money down. Ronald LeGrand bought his like little 2-day thing or 1-day thing, bought the boot camp, bought everything that they were selling. Educated myself, started taking action while I had a full-time job doing face-to-face timeshare type sales. And then I was like, man, I got to go like all in on this. Like I can't do it like halfway because I work too much. So I quit that company. I was a top salesperson for 2 years, quit that company, went full steam into residential wholesaling, did a couple deals. I was missing something in my business. So I went to a RIA meeting looking for a mentor. The mentor's like, I don't really want to hire you. Like, I want to hire somebody. I don't want to like mentor you and then you go do your own thing. So I was like, hey, I'm loyal. I'll commit to you. And so I worked with him. I was missing something in my business, and it was really just like estimating repairs correctly. And like, I was like, that's what I'm messing up on. But I stuck with him for 3 years. I ran his wholesale company while he did rehabs and new construction. I thought I was going to go into that direction, but I never did. So I just went off and did my own thing. I was like, hey, I gave you 3 years. I'm going to do my own thing. And it was my brother was 18 at the time, and it was me. I took him along, and it was me and him. And we're just doing wholesaling for many years until we finally got into a mastermind and kind of really treated it like a business and really tried KPIs, started hiring people, and just really, made it a business instead of just like a hustle, that we were doing day to day and not tracking anything. And so finally, when I was like in 2020, where I was like, it was kind of like automated where it would work without me, my wholesale business, is when I was like starting to go full steam into commercial. Now, on that whole journey of, after I quit working with the other guy and into 2020, I was like probably 6 years or so. 3 years we were just wholesaling, and that was it. In 2017 is when I had my first daughter, and that's when I was like, I need to really start buying some assets. So I learned creative financing from some old guy out of Tampa. I forgot his name right now. And but I bought a bunch of properties with seller financing, subject to, started taking down assets, bought a mobile home park, bought small apartment buildings, a bunch of houses, rental properties, all while doing the wholesale business. And then my wholesale business got automated. And in 2020, I was like, I'm just going to dial in on this, because if I find another mobile home park, this is my buddy with mobile home parks. That's all he does. I'm just going to partner with him. If I find someone apartments, I'll just give it to this guy and partner with him, because that's what he's really good at. And so that's what I've been able to really succeed and build a large portfolio. I always partner with somebody who's like, that's their all in. So like, I have a bunch of Airbnbs. I don't know anything about Airbnbs. I help structure deals. I raise capital. I give it to the Airbnb guy. We partner. I let them do their thing. They run it great, and I don't have to worry about anything. So I own a bunch of different assets, but I really don't handle the day-to-day of those things. And so the one thing that no one else was doing was self-storage. And so I dialed in on self-storage and maximize my education on just like focusing in on that.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that you had all these other assets. So you've worked with, how many partners would you say that you have? It sounds like you do multifamily, residential, obviously self-storage. Do you still have that mobile home park?
We do. So we have a mobile home park in Asheville, North Carolina, and we have a mobile home park in Gary, Indiana.
And you're not a part of the day-to-day management of any of these?
So we had another one also, and the other one we sold, we had two that my buddy handled everything. The one in Asheville, my team here handles, because it's a kind of a different mobile home park. One of my investors actually brought it to me and was like, I want to buy this. I'll give you 50%. Just do it with me. And so we bought that property. It's a little bit different because with that mobile home park, typically you only want to own the land and not the homes. In this park, we own all the homes because it's in such valuable, the land is such in good location that the end goal for us or somebody else, I would say, is to knock all the homes down and build like apartments because it's so close to like Biltmore Estates and like all the downtown.
So the first thing that comes to my mind when you're telling me this is, what is the biggest consistent pain point that comes up with partners? Because and I love that you're doing this, because I think that when you get to a certain level where you find like your niche, you go, I'm not going to stop investing in other asset classes. I'm just going to put my money or put the deal into hands of somebody that has a fully operational machine. But partnerships are no joke.
Yeah.
It takes work.
I think the thing that has been successful with me is like I'm putting in the hands of operators, people who are not kind of like me. They're kind of like, they're not me. I'm like a visionary. I'm more, CEO, and they're like operators. They're in it. They're running it, and they're, probably replacing themselves to be more visionary. But they like handled it the day-to-day of all that businesses. Now, some partnerships that did not work as well is when I, as my partner, like we're both doing the same thing. So like, why are we, this doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
We need
That's a big nugget. That's a big nugget. Cause I had that happen to me early on in my real estate acquisition, I guess not career, but journey, is I ran into that exact thing. We were the same person. And I'm grateful that him and I only own one property together. But there were some things that happened afterwards on some other properties that were conflicting because we're the same people doing the same things. And it ended up being like, hey, I don't know if this is the best fit. And luckily we didn't enter down a road of deep level issues and having to cash each other out and all the things, but just, it's one of those things, man. It's real. Partnerships can be a wild journey. And you hear horror stories all the time.
Yeah. I've had bad partnerships too. And you try to break it up as quick as possible. And a lot of times you got to go into it almost like a prenup or like the divorce ahead of time. You got to know, hey, this is what happens because it most likely will happen. This is what we agree to when this eventually breaks up or, we go our separate ways. But a lot of times on all those partnerships, it's also a deal by deal basis. So I'm not like forming, big companies together with this person. Like I'm literally like, hey, we're going to buy this deal together. And it's like your LLC, my LLC, or we're going to buy this together. It's not like we're so combined
together. Yeah.
It's harder to break everything apart.
Yeah. Interesting. So so similarly, so what's cool too is like hearing Ron LeGrand's story. So when you got into the wholesale business, were you primarily, you met that mentor at the meetup. Were you primarily focusing mostly on cash, or were you using creative as a part of the wholesale technique as like tools in the tool belt? Or were you primarily just focused on distressed properties, cash, boom, 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 volume? And was this just in Florida?
It was all in Florida at first and mostly just like Orlando, really. This is like back in 2011. So it was like all 2010, 11. And it was like all REOs. So we were really just it was like calling realtors, making offers to realtors, selling them on bandit signs. I think in those first couple of years, like 70% of the deals were on market deals.
Awesome. Way cool. Very similar.
Yeah. Huge. A lot of inventory. It's not like today there's like a lack of inventory. There was too much inventory on the market.
Yeah. Our makeup right now internally, in terms of our deal flow is I would say 60% of our deal flow is on market properties, working with agents, a lot of creative, some cash here and there. And then direct to seller PPL and various stuff. And that's the oiled, I guess, active income machine right now internally on our real estate business. And then we have a portfolio of single family rentals, long-term, short terms, all the things, sober living. But like you said, like having a right operator in place, like my sober living operator is just set it and forget it. I never hear of a thing. They just pay they just pay the rent and just how we do and keep it moving. It's great, man.
Yeah. And then the creative stuff like came later as I got educated on that part of the business and learning, how to structure deals and make different types of offers. That's like how I built my entire portfolio. So like self-storage aside, like with self-storage and everything else combined, we have like 50 million, 53 million plus. Majority of that is seller financing of some kind. Out of the 15 self-storage facilities we acquired, 11 are with seller financing. And we are closing on 2 more in January, and one of them is a seller finance deal. The other one's a cash deal.
So before we kind of get into the self-storage thing, what do you feel like was a really challenging transition for you when you went from residential to commercial? Because there's so many nuances there. I know it's asset class dependent, but generally speaking, a lot of people hold themselves back. And I'm curious what you faced with that transition.
Honestly, we actually got pretty lucky because we got a deal for storage in our first mail campaign. But I think what could be a big deterrent is, like, let's say the next deal didn't come for a year later almost. So it's like there's a long time between deals or even activity, going like not day-to-day activity, but like getting a deal under contract. Like you could get one a year and you could get 5, So I think I got 1, 2, 5, 2, 5, So it's like it's a kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. Like it's not like houses. There's so many houses where it's like you get a deal every day. Like my office here gets a deal every single day almost, if not more. So it's like it's just so different on that aspect of there's a lot less people to talk to. There's a lot less activity. Like if we have multiple cold callers calling for single family houses, if you had multiple callers, you'd burn the list to the ground for self-storage. There's only so many you're going to call. And so it's just a slower game. And you got to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more strategic, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny so you're still doing the residential wholesaling thing as an active business model.
My brother runs the day-to-day of that business. I just hold a weekly meeting on Monday mornings and pretty much just any help and feedback. He mostly comes to me like he just did earlier. Hey, one of the deals we picked up, it's a sub 2 deal. I want you to look at it, take a second eye on it and see if we should keep it. So I just looked at it quick. I'm like, yeah, cash on cash return looks good. What's the age of this? Yeah, go ahead. Let's buy it. It's pretty much what I did.
I think that people get really disillusioned by 1, how long this takes, 2, how hard it is, 3, how hard it is to stay motivated and consistent. And you start in residential and it's hard enough. And then you right? Like then you transition over to commercial and you're totally right. I mean, I'm on the broker side in California and I've owned and operated business for over 15 years. So I know for a fact, how some people are like, I get seasonal depression every year. I hate it. It's like, I start to get anxiety December 1. Because I know, it's going to slow down and I'm going to start feeling like, oh my God, like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to make it through this winter? And every time I do, but it's that slow period of time that it's really hard for me to let go of the fact that it's cyclical. It's a cycle like everything else. And you just have to be patient. And commercial is next level patience and just relationship building and all those things. So I appreciate hearing that and just being reminded of it. You made me feel a little bit better there where you're like, I was wholesaling for 6 years. I was like, whew, okay, we're good.
Yeah, because we watch, what's really cool is like Daniela and I are are hyper consistent. We show up and do 1% every day, blah, 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 woo, 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 whatever it is. But like, we made the decision back in July of this year that self-storage is the vehicle that we're going to go down and head towards and invest and own a few facilities and see where that takes us. I've primarily been in the residential space. Daniela has been both residential and now commercial as well too. And all those things. And just showing up every day. We had a facility under contract here a month ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. Unfortunately, we had to cancel that deal due to P&Ls. We can talk more on that and whatnot. But it's just interesting how, the vehicle of where you start and what you do. Cause like for me, like getting into and owning a rental property was like a Everest. It's like genuinely. And then it became the next thing and the next thing, and owning a wholesale business and doing 10 deals a month was like, oh my gosh, like, what are you talking about? And so from us right now, genuinely, the hill is owning a self-storage facility. Not even, I mean, from an operation standpoint, from a creative finance standpoint of putting together from an acquisition standpoint, it's just cool to see you down the road having overcame all of the same hurdles and doing the same things at a different time. And it's cool too to hear that your brother is operating with you too from a family standpoint. At what point did he kind of get involved in your business?
When he was 18. So like I literally, even like at 17, I think I took him, and he was like the admin person for the company I worked for before, for like the other guy I worked for. And then at 18, I took him. I was like, hey, we're going to do our own thing. I brought him along. I taught him everything I know. He's been by my side for a long time. So that's why he's like, I think the hardest thing with a lot of wholesaling is like people don't know how to comp properly. And like, he's been with me the whole time. Like I've showed him like every single like thing I know. So he's got it down. So he's come a long way, and he's really good manager. He's a really good sales team leader. His sales skills, I was just listening to him this morning, like giving a pitch or training to our team. And I was like, damn, like he's just on so many more phone calls than I am. I'm like, I think you're better than me maybe now.
That's
and
great.
Like he's dialed in. So it's good. And he gets the benefits of like everything else I'm doing and everything else we buy. So we have different partnerships of, hey, while I'm doing the storage thing, like, even though I'm doing this, like, you're getting a piece of everything I'm doing too, because you're running that produces my active income. So while I do this, you're going to get a piece of this.
Beautiful.
So it's like mutually beneficial. It's just not like I'm using him to run that business and not get other benefits. We're really making sure it makes sense for both of us to scale together and grow these simultaneous companies.
Love it.
That's so awesome. That's so cool. And how cool for him too, that he gets to have a piece of everything else, because not every business structure works like that at all. So that's awesome.
My brother.
Go ahead.
I said, that's my brother. So I got to take care of him.
So cool. So like he's a lucky dude to be in your wake. That's for sure. And now, like you said, the whole point is to bring people up so that they are better than you, and that it allows you to grow and do something totally different.
Yeah.
So Landon, do you have any questions for Alex before I start with like creative finance structure? Because I think that, our audience are primarily people that are interested in creative finance and how to get into businesses and homes and commercial assets creatively. So before I sort of take a hard right, do you have anything?
No, I know you're super excited. You were telling me this morning, and you came onto my Zoom this morning, that you're fired up to ask him all the questions you have coming up. And so I'm excited to hear those too. I kind of want to just grab some popcorn and sit back and watch. But no, I think to hear the origin story for me was kind of a cool thing to hear. It gave me grace is the wrong word. But I think it allowed me to pause and go, okay, take a deep breath, dude. Like, it's a journey. It's a process. I'm so much chomping in the bit of trying to, fall in the shadows of what you're accomplishing and what you're doing. And we're acquiring rentals, and we own a portfolio of rentals myself and whatnot and various things. But, it never stops, right? Because now self-storage is the new venture that we haven't unlocked that level yet. And so we're heading to that thing and haven't done one yet. And so it's like, okay, well, you're not enough. Imposter syndrome and all those BS things. But no, I think I tapped out the questions, Daniela. I think I'm ready for the gauntlet that's coming.
Well, I'll tell you one thing on what you said there. It is a journey and it takes a long time. So you don't need to be in a rush. But the one regret I do tell people is, after I left that other company, worked with my brother for 3 years, we did the same pretty much every single month, every single year for 3 years. And it wasn't until I got into more coaching, into masterminds, because I was always about coaching, but get into the bigger rooms or get into the connected one-on-one with the people who are doing what I want to do, to take me there. Because it is a journey. It's a long time, but right now in storage, now is the best time to get opportunities in storage with deals, because more and more people are knowing about it. And those mom and pops are becoming, like, you see other people talk about, small businesses self-storage is a small business. These people are ready to sell. My best avatar for a seller is somebody who's retiring. And so now is the time to take action. So like, when you can be alongside somebody who's going to pull you and help you, like, that's what you need. And that's what I needed all that time ago. So that was my biggest regret, is like not getting that mentorship early on, because I always tell people, like, where I am at now, I should have been here 5 years ago. It took me too long. I was complacent for too long. And so there's plenty of opportunity out there. And I think when you can pay someone to skip the line, it makes sense.
So true. Sounds like I need to hurry up, Danielle. All right.
No. Okay. Like this, it's so fun. Like, I always tell investors this too, right? I come from a family of owning businesses for a long time. And it's the same way in real estate. It's not about acquiring. It's about holding. Like, the pain is in the freaking hold. It's not about like, oh, I got this great seller finance deal. Great. A day later, a hurricane blew the freaking roof off. Now what? Like, do I have that active income? Yeah. Can I replace that investment? Because now I'm on a FEMA list and I'm not going to get hit. Like, there's all these other things. And in business, it's like, we had years where we starved, and we had years where we did like $1 million in profit, and then the next 2 years were terrible. And so it's environmental, it's market, it's cyclical, it's all these different things. And so I always try to just remember that the anxiety and the pressure that you feel to acquire, that FOMO, that comparison game is like, you haven't even scratched the tip of the iceberg of struggle. That's just like the exciting part. That's the dopamine hit. Like, dopamine hit, I got something, I closed something. And then it's like, shit, now what do I do? Oh, dang, like, this thing's in Idaho. I've never even been to Idaho. Dope. Like, I don't know anything about the snow. I live in California, so it's like all these little things that, lots of fun lessons.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen your fair share, considering the amount of assets, and I'm sure that they're spread out too. So, I think for me, the more and more that I underwrite these, and I underwrite businesses too. I'm a business buyer. I'm not just interested in self-storage. I definitely want to pick up some active businesses here in the Bay Area where I live. I'm still have a mindset issue around being able to touch and see, and that is, I hope to grow out of that by giving other asset class specialists my money. I do want to own that, but I'm never going to own that there. But I think for me, like, I keep running into this issue. We're looking a lot in the Mountain West because that's where we are. We know Oregon, we know Montana, we know Idaho, we know California, Utah. Like, we know these areas. We know what's happening with growth and population and the market in and of itself. But I swear to you, even direct to seller, I personally feel a lot of these facilities are like $1 million overpriced. I'm going, that works. You want to? This works at 1.1.
Yeah.
I'll give you cash 1.1. And of course, I mean, I'm a broker calling other brokers, and I start talking like this. They're like, like, they just totally tune out because they know they can't go back to their seller with that. The same way I would know on my listings, I can't go back to my seller with that kind of information packaged in that way. So we're in a place, like a lot of other investors in our various masterminds, whatever, we're trying to buy businesses zero down. We know we have the credibility and the experience to carry and come in with 100% debt load, whether that be like 70% seller finance and 30% PMP. But the problem is the majority of these business models cannot carry 100% debt load. And so I feel I'm sitting here feeling probably like how you felt with your wholesale business, where I'm missing something. Like, there's something missing in my business that I cannot figure this out. And I think that that's really my biggest overarching question for you is, when you are coming in, and I don't know if you started this way or you ended this way, but if you're dealing with 100% debt load, 120% debt load, because you need to put more units down or do whatever you need to do, how are you making sense of these deals? Like, how do you structure that PML, PMP? What does that look like for you? I'm sure people would love to hear like how really to get into a zero down business that's not going to cash flow negative 10 grand a month.
For sure. So how we structure it. So most of our deals, let's say, is 80% seller financing we negotiate, and we had to put 20% down with seller financing and closing costs, due diligence fees, our acquisition fees, so we can make some money up front, which you should always charge. I didn't charge in the beginning, but you should definitely always charge an acquisition fee. It's going to keep your business alive. And so what you do is, how I structure it, you just kind of know your investor really well. So for me, it's always about your investor. What are their requirements? What are they looking for as a return, and what's important to them? Because if you're looking with somebody who's like, hey, I'll give you whatever money you want, but I need a 10% cash on cash like day one. Well, a lot of these deals might not make sense, and you might be smart to structure it as like a second loan, where now you keep 100% of equity, and you might come out of pocket $10,000 a year. But at the end of it, once you do the add value, you can refinance them out and you own it 100% in a way. But if not, like for us, most of my investors are at 8 pref. So I got to pay them 8%. So most
from the we close like month one, 8% pref.
So it used to, when I first got started, it used to be like that because the deals supported that. At that point in time, the cap rates were a little bit higher. We were buying properties at 7, 8 caps all day long, and with added value. Nowadays, a lot of times I'm going into a property where the cash on cash going in is 4, 5, 6% cash on cash. So if it's 4, 5, 6% cash on cash, I'm always looking for how quickly can I get it to 8% plus, and how much effort and capex does it take to do that? And so my goal is always like, you have to see the immediate add value. And most of the times it's not like building additional units and stuff like that. That takes a long period of time. Like, how quickly can I get it from, let's say, going in 5% cash on cash to an 8% with just increasing rents, doing better marketing, automating the facility, lowering the expenses, whatever it may be. This is the add value. So I got to identify what's the add value there? How is it being mismanaged? So they have no website. They're doing no marketing. Their rents are 30% below market. Okay, those are things that I can show. Okay, like the one we're buying in January. We're buying 2 in January, very different properties. For example, this first one, 100% occupied. Rents are 30% below market. So that's easy.
Yeah.
Just raise the rents. And we can strategically raise them over time, or just hit them in the head at once, and then we'll get some occupancy out. But it's right before the seasonality of like move-in season, so that might be actually better for us to get the people who are price conscious out of the facility and be hit marketing hard to get new clients, because that is an area where there's a lot of growth and a lot of people moving and a lot of development, a lot of new houses being built in that area. So the add value on that one's pretty easy. Now and we bought that with seller financing, and it's like 75% seller financing, $4 million, $1 million down. He's carrying $3 million at 4% interest only. So that one is like going in is like a 5 or 6 cash on cash, but like within year one, we'll be like a 9.7, 10%, because it's just an easy lift. It doesn't need a lot of capex, and we're going to quickly be able to get there, right? The next deal, so I'm just identifying add value. Where can I add the value, and what do I have to do to get there as quick as possible? And we're going to do some other stuff. Like there's some extra space where we can have like Boxwell units, but like really that doesn't even come into my pro forma until like year 2 to be able to get them leased up and rented and get them there and, get the permits or whatever we need. This other deal we're buying 30 minutes away, similar size, 50,000 square feet. We're buying it for 2.7, a little bit over 2.7 million cash. Same size, same area, much better deal, but this is 50% occupied, and the economic occupancy is like 43%. So my add value on that one is I gotta they have no website, no marketing, and they no website, no marketing, and they have low occupancy. So they're just mismanaging on that way. So I have to I have to get the marketing set up. I haven't been to the property yet. Go Monday. I have to spend a lot of money on marketing. I have to probably place a better manager in place have to handle the phone calls, everything much better, have to implement just the automations and things to run it more efficiently. And that going in is like a 4% cash on cash. And the second year is like a 6.5 or 7% cash on cash, because it's all cash. So it's 2.7 million at APREF,
Sure.
you know, or actually 3 million with my fee and closing costs and all that. So it's actually 3 million. So it's going to take till year 2 really to be able to pay the full out pref. So you have to be able to tell your investor and just say, hey, we're going to get you that APREF, but the first year you might only get 4 of the 8. The second year you might get 6, 7 of the 8, and then the next year you'll get the full 8, and you'll get re-caught up on the deferred pref payment at refinance or sale. Now on that one, they're buying all cash, so we want to refinance as quickly as possible. The problem is most lenders, because we can say essentially after the rental season, we might be able to get to a position where the property NOI wise is worth $4 million, by the end of the first year. But the most banks, if you own it less than a year or less than 2 years, really, they're only going to typically lend you on your basis. So what you have into the property for purchase price and CapEx. So and we can only get 70% of that instead of like refinancing all our capital out. So typically you have to own for 2 years, have 2 years of financials to get the new NOI value. So that's a decision to be made with your investors, and literally they will almost have to tell you and dictate to you like, hey, let's go with 1 year, pull out some capital so I feel more secure, and then the cash on cash return is going to be lower, or wait the full 2 years. They're going to get paid that pref at the refinance, and then they'll have less capital in that deal at that point in time, if any, and then it's going to be a much higher cash on cash return at that point. So it's really just kind of knowing your investors and kind of mapping it out to them based on what their needs are. But a lot of times it's going to come down to getting them to agree to defer the pref payment until cash flow allows.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that that's sort of like you coming from a place of inexperience. And so learning how to structure private money partnerships without the necessity of syndicating or doing a fund or whatever it is, which, is not a road that we need to go down at this time. But what it also sounds like to me is that clearly, like you've gotten to a place where you're comfortable running negative. Like, on average, how long it's going to take. Like if this place that has 40% occupancy, that how long on average it'll take to lease up if you do A, B, and C. And for the place that has 100% occupancy, if you jack it 30%, like the first 30 to 60 days that you're there, you probably have a pretty good idea of what that will do to your monthly net, So are you in a place, do you feel like, am I making an assumption here that you're pretty comfortable? You can go, hey, I can carry this. I'm not going to freak.
Yeah. It's not about so essentially we're not really negative. Like even we were going over one of the deals very quickly on the last little bit of our call. My call with my investors was, he's like, hey, it's going, how do we handle the going negative? I go, well, it's not going negative because we're not going to pay you the whole pref. It's the money's owed to you, not to a bank. So you can wait to receive it. So we're going to wait to receive it, and it's not negative. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, it will get caught up at refinance. So it's not negative. Now, in certain cases, and really a bank's not going to allow you to be negative because you need a DSCR of 1.25 or more. So you're not going to be negative on your debt service. You can only be negative on what's owed to the investor. So you just have to let the investor know, hey, I am going to pay you, but it's going to be paid at this point in time at refinance or sale. Now, going back to the first comment I made, if you had cash set aside and you're like, hey, this investor's like, well, I don't want to wait for my money. You're like, okay, well, how about I'll pay you 10% interest, but instead of giving you any equity, you'll just be a second note holder and I'll pay you 10% instead of 8%. Now for that 20% down, you can put them into the deal. Mm-hmm. 10%, but you have to have money set aside. So you're like, I'm good being negative 10, like you said, 10,000 a month, a year. So, hey, I'll pay out of my pocket the negative each month to this investor. So they're made whole every single month on the interest payment to them. But then now when I go to refinance at year 1 or year 2, and I
pay yourself back.
Well, I refinance them out. Maybe I pay myself back some, maybe I don't, maybe my money stays in the deal, but they get paid back. And now I own the deal 100% me, and I have no partners.
Right.
Which is a benefit because you had 100% equity. And now you get the upside for the next 3 to 5 years of running the thing after you've stabilized. So it's just a different way done that. We've done that on like 1 or 2 deals where we just use a second loan instead, a second mortgage holder instead of a equity partner. And it allowed us to, and it was because really we didn't need a lot of capital. So the negative wasn't that much. And in reality, it was negative going into it, but with the quick add value, we were going to be not negative as long as we just did the rent increases and what we were supposed to do, which we did in 6 months. So.
Okay. That I'm like, all of this makes, I'm so bad, man. Like it's going to be so hard for me to do this without like proof of concept. Cause I'm really fucking conservative. I'm sorry. Like I really am.
I am too. I'm very
like, I do struggle with this because I know what it's like to have to like we used to have a monthly minimum sales goal of 100 grand closed to keep the lights on. Like rent was like 25 grand a month, you know? And so it's for me, I'm sitting here going like, okay. It's hard for me to accept that level of unknown. And I don't know what I don't know yet. So for me, all of this happens hypothetically and great in theory, right? And you're not the first person that I've heard like has it dialed. Not even in their first, you don't have to be a super deeply experienced investor to know how to force appreciation. Like I know somebody that's done 5 RV parks in a year. That's an astronomical amount for somebody that's never done that before. And now they're like purchasing with a couple million, like short-term loan because they know they can refi out within 6 months. And I'm just going like, what? Like that's wild to me. I'm just not there yet. Hopefully in a year from now we'll talk and I'll be laughing about this conversation.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, like the one thing you should be able to project is like the first year or so of like, I can go from here to here. Everything else after that's kind of like a guess because you don't really know what's going to happen in the market or this area or the world because it's all dictated by interest rates and people moving and things like that. So if interest rates go up, there's less people moving. So now there's less demand on your facilities and now either occupancies drop or rates drop. And so there's all these other factors that we put into place of like, hey, after this year, I project it's going to go up 5%, rent bumps every single year, or 3%, or hey, there's a lot of growth and it's low supply in this area. So I'm going to project 7-8% per year. But in reality, it's just projections. You don't really know. The only thing you can really tell is going in, hey, the rents are here and these are the numbers here. And I can, with evidence and with data, take it from here to here. And that makes it a deal. Everything else that happens after that is really just a guess of an educated guess, but it's really a guess of like, hey, this is where we see it going and trending based on data, but it's not nothing set in stone. It's really just this initial here to here. Is there value? Is there a spread where it makes sense? And if it does, then that's a deal.
Landon. Yeah,
I totally do. I have landscapers absolutely demolishing my backyard right now. So this entire time, I'm like trying to listen. I'm so sorry. It's been amazing to listen to. Full gauntlet going on right now because we just overseeded over here in Arizona. Over here in Arizona, you have to have 2 different grasses. It's the most insane thing in the world coming from Oregon where there was 1 grass. Anyway, super valuable information there. Thank you for sharing all of those things. Yeah, I know we spoke briefly on like a month or 2 ago, whenever it was, about stair stepping the prefs and various. I guess my question is from a raising standpoint for that 30% down with acquisition fees and whatnot. Are you operating with a fund? Is that how you're primarily doing those things, or is it individualized? You're keeping it within the SEC regulations. Obviously, you're not doing a syndication. Like, what does that typically look like for you from a capital raising standpoint? Do you just have VIP players that you're marketing to, and they're coming into the next one or whatever? Because if you have multiple facilities out, and their money's tied up, I know you're doing refis, but I guess from that standpoint, how are you structuring that? And at what tipping point would you do a fund?
Yeah, my only downfall for a fund in my eyes, and there's a lot of good benefits of it, but in my eyes, it makes me feel like forced to do deals and forced to buy bad deals because that money's ticking. Like you got that money, the interest rate's ticking, and if you're not utilizing it, you're losing money. So it makes you feel a little bit forced. Now, the good side of a fund is, well, hey, if I do a $10 million fund, I can be more aggressive on offers. I can go to, the same way we do with houses with private money is like there's competition, houses for sale. The seller's like, well, I got an offer for 250. I'm like, well, I got 200 and I'll close and I'll put the whole $200,000 in escrow. Like I'm going to close for real. Like this guy's a wholesaler or he's wasting your time. He may be a higher offer, but I'm a for sure bet. And the same thing you can do with, self-storage. You can go out there and be like, hey, you want 3 million? That's overpriced. I'll give you 2.2 cash and I'll close it in a month. You can try to get 3, but it's not going to pencil out. The DSCR means this. It doesn't make sense. You're lying to yourself and you just make aggressive offers. Hey, close in 30 days. You can just be more aggressive and you'll get deals with that aggressiveness. And then you just turn that money quick. You do the add value, you refinance, you get that money back. And so it definitely is a benefit, but there's also a lot of headaches and SEC and regulations to doing that and reporting investors and all that stuff. So it makes it just much tougher. And obviously you can have a pool of investors. I've been lucky enough to have a handful of investors where I work like one-on-one with them on a deal. So they have business backgrounds. They have experience where it's more of like a JV than an investor where they're literally like, hey, where we go over the deal, they invest. It's a JV relationship. And it's like single check writers.
Go ahead, Daniela.
Oh, no. I'm just enjoying hearing about like now it's a little bit different now for you and how I really love that fun piece though, because I know people that put together funds and I'm a fractional chief operating officer for different investment firms. And so I've come in and they've gone, we have to move this money. We have to move it now. I need creative deals now. And I'm like, that is not how it works, son. Like I get that fire, that anxiety and the pressure because this money's sitting there doing nothing, but also the deals all three of us have had experience transacting are not those deals. They do not grow on trees and it just takes time.
It does take time. And and I try not to force deals. Like deals come and you don't want to buy a bad deal. You make money when you buy. And so you got to make sure you're not buying a bad deal. I got advice from somebody who was crushing it in storage. And they told me, the only way to scale is to be willing to hit some singles and be willing to take some losses. And I was like, losses? What would I take a loss? Like, that makes no sense. He's like, that's the only way you get to scale. Like, and they're taking some losses right now. And they own $500 million in assets. So they're above me and they probably know better than I do. But I'd rather not lose any investors' money. I'd rather be conservative, buy 2-5 deals a year instead of buying 27 and make sure I can sleep at night,
Yeah, oh my God. You just hit the freaking nail on the head because that is the difference with so many different, it's a race to the bottom is what, and some people, they want that, right? Like they want to have $500 million in assets. They want a couple billion in assets. And it all comes back to what you want your life to look like, what you want your every day when you wake up with your kids and your partner, like, what do you want that to look like? Because I, for sure, a handful of couple $1 million assets a year, that's plenty. And I'm in literally the most expensive city in the country. Like we tango with New York regularly, but really though, it's just ridiculous. People just burn money here. I was talking to an investor that makes $750,000 a year, and he was asking me how he could buy a laundromat. And I'm like, you are talking to the wrong person. So, like, if you can't figure out how to do it with making that kind of income, I don't know what to tell you, So that's huge though. And recently I was on the phone with a broker who was a broker owner operator, a lot of expensive large facilities in California and in the Mountain West. And he was telling me the same thing. He's like, people overpay for these. That's just what you do. And of course I'm talking to him about one of his listings that's drastically overpriced. And in my head, I'm going, I don't give two shits to Shinola. Like, I cannot make this work. Like, I don't want to, my fear is overpaying for a facility that, and I'm so annoying about this with Landon and Chris, but I'm like, if we purchase too high, the market will not bear the resale. And if the exit is the strategy, then how like we could make a serious mistake. Like, it could be our facility that's on market 600 days or whatever it is, you know? I think that that's really an undervalued piece of the conversation is we're all so eager to do the thing, but that's where so many mistakes are made. And it's just a common thing. I mean, I'm still so new to this asset class, but across commercial assets, I'm seeing this regularly, you know, like regularly right now.
And there's people who can overpay, and there's people who have super cheap money. So like REITs overpay, and you know, some of the big guys overpay because their money is free or 2%. So they can pay a 4 cap and they cannot, you know, make money for 2 years. Because in the long run, they're playing the long game and they got long money. So they can, you know, refinance or cash out a loan or whatnot, but it's really financing that kills deals. So when you can structure seller financing and get long terms, everybody thinks it actually is like 0% interest or a low interest rate. But I'd rather have 4%, 5% interest for 30 years than a 0% interest that balloons in 2, you know, because it's time that you need. It's not like the low interest rate. So the more time you have, the better. And when, you know, commercial loans typically they balloon every 5 years typically. You're on a kind of a short window. So you have to perform, you know, 5 years is a long time, but it's relatively short because you don't know what can happen. You can have great metrics and add value in 2 years. And then we go into World War III and now interest rates are super high and no one wants to refinance you out. And now you're stuck. And now your predicted 6 cap exit is an 8 cap and now you lose money. So, you know, the more time you have, the better. And so seller finance deals typically allow you to, you know, if the way you structure it, give you more time. And if you can have more time, it just gives you more optionality.
What is the minimum seller finance balloon that you will consider?
I did one for 2 years. And it was because it was a good deal going in. I wish it didn't because I got caught in that time period because I just refinanced this past summer at rates that were higher than I wanted to pay or I thought I could pay. I did not make money at refinance. I actually had to pay like 45 grand at refinance. So that sucks. And I probably wouldn't do it again. If interest rates were where they were at, I would have been fine. But I got caught in that. It was a little small facility, so it's not that bad. But and it was because also it's in Florida on the coast, so insurance was much higher, and so I got hit with those factors too. But overall, I prefer 5 years at the least because that's similar to a bank loan, so at least 5 years. But ideally, with seller financing, you want to get seller financing to have better terms than the bank. So I really ideally like 7 years, 10 years is where I would really love to be, 7 to 10 years. And I literally just tell the sellers that, like, you know, the one we're buying next month, we have a 5-year interest only note, and then with an extension, an option to extend for 2 years, and we have to pay I think the rate just adjusts to like whatever the Wall Street rate is. So doing things like that where you get an automatic extension or you can pay a fee for an extension, doing those types of things helps you have that option to extend if you get caught at the wrong year where interest rates are high and, you know, or bank lending is tight. So those are some things that we definitely always try to do to just give us more time and options.
Mower's just still ripping over here. So I caught 90% of what everyone just said, but what's funny is I missed the part, and then I came back in and Daniela goes, "You hit the nail on the head." And I'm like, "Great, missed that entire thing." So I'll have to go back and watch. Not a big deal. Of course, timing. They show up on Friday mornings. Why are we on a Tuesday at 2? Not sure. So my apologies. But no, it's great, Alex. What's cool is like hearing the origin story of everything, but then the evolution within the asset class of self-storage, of lessons learned, getting caught with your pants down, and how you're quickly reacting to those things and implementing them into your contracts of adding these extensions. It's beautiful. It's smart. is just giving you the, at least the opportunity. We do those things in our seller finance deals too, where typically in this residential standpoint, we'll do a 10-year balloon for the seller finance deal. But if we don't miss a single payment up until that 10-year mark, we have the opportunity to extend to a 15-year. And so that's typically how we structure those. And it's interesting how those things, not so much from a standpoint, I mean, I guess it is protection from interest rates, a little bit, because if we were at that 10-year mark right now, I would be like, hey, listen, let's keep her ripping here and I'll give you some more. But anyway, so it's beautiful, man. I appreciate you sharing all those things. So I guess, for you, I know a couple of things that you mentioned earlier on is this Friday, Saturday, you're hosting is it all virtual, or are you doing some in-house as well too?
No, it's all virtual. It's like a live Zoom with Q&A after each section. Masterclass Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5. We're teaching everything self-storage, how to find them, what we do for marketing, underwriting them, going over deals. We've done operations, taking over the property first 90 days, due diligence, all that. So it's kind of like an A to Z on, buying your first self-storage facility, or if you already own them, buying more.
Yeah, that's great, man. I can't imagine the amount of value that's going to get out of that. And then also too, if you want to touch on it too a little bit, after that, I know that here in the future, I'm not sure when you're starting, you're also I don't want to call it a mentorship, but what do you call your inner circle? Is that right?
Yeah, it's like our self-storage communities called self-storage creators, and create opportunities, create deals, create this passive income, and create the life that you want. And that is going to go launch right after. So the first week of call is going to be next week, right after the 2-day. Guys who are just going to the 2-day, and some guys who signed up for the whole year of being with me on going over deals and looking for deals and opportunities and helping them acquire their first one.
What's cool about those communities is beyond just the insane value that you get by being in the room with you and being able to just have those conversations, but it's also being around other people who are wanting the same thing and being able to collaborate and have conversations where you're not the bearer of everything. Meaning if I have a question, I can go to Daniela and ask that question because she's maybe a little bit more experienced than I am, or has heard it from you and has learned it, already owns a facility, and you're just creating this little micro community and being able to share all those wisdoms and all those things. And it's not just coming from you. And I'm sure that's something that you're mapping in terms of your communities and what you're creating. I guess, do you guys have, as a part of that community, is there an Everest? Is there something that you're creating out of this that you're wanting to capitalize on, not from a standpoint of money, but moreover with the members that are joining it? What is the ultimate goal with that community? Is it something where getting everyone their first facility, or what's the mapped out?
Yeah, getting their first facility is mostly kind of probably the majority of people are going to be first time folks coming over. And so getting them their first site. But a lot of times it's gonna be twofold. Obviously we want to help you get your first one and then grow it from there, because obviously if you're buying 1, 2, we can help you. I want to grow with you too. So if you pick up 1 or 2, and a lot of times just for natural, you work with your coaches, is now you bought your 15,000 square foot facility, a 20,000 square foot facility. Now you have an 80,000 square foot facility. You're like, well, I have some private money, but I need to raise $3 million. I'll be like, oh, well, I can help you with that. And hopefully they come to me and they'll bring me opportunities that
exactly
them and partner with them on. And so that's kind of the selfish part for me is I'm looking for more deal flow and more opportunities. And if I can train people how to go find opportunities and get these deals, and sometimes they come across and bring them to me. And sometimes maybe I can lend them money, or sometimes I can, partner with them or help them wholesale it. My first storage student I had, he was literally a wholesaler looking to get into storage to wholesale. And so I helped them negotiate the deal. I structured the deal for him. We flew out to the property together. We did due diligence. I'm like, hey, I think we could sell this for $100K. When we actually went out there, I was like, damn, this deal is super clean. I'll pay you $50K and I'll keep it. And he's like, let's do it. So it just made sense. I was like, this is such a good seller finance deal. He made his $50K. He was happy. And, so just partnering on deals like that will come about. And, whether we can help them in that way or just steer you just want to help you avoid the mistakes that has happened. And right now, like I said earlier, this is the best time to buy. So the more people I can work with, we always say partnerships equal rocket ships. So just looking for, our community to grow and continue to do deals together.
What's cool. Yeah, exactly. You just hit it to do deals with each other. Because what's cool is you're going to see people within your community partner up with one another, because there's going to be, I'm certain, there's different avatars, that visionaries that are in the room for sure. But then there's going to be the integrator that wants to be a part of it, but doesn't want to do this type of stuff or capital raise, but they're great at creating the drip campaigns and the systems and the flow and all those things. And so, no, it's beautiful, man, to create those little micro communities, and you're just the guy for it.
I appreciate that.
What do you got, Daniela?
So, Alex, we're at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. How can people find you? How can people find out more about your program, more about your workshops, all that fun stuff?
Yep. So my tag there is alex.theinvestor.quezada. That's on pretty much every YouTube, IG, TikTok, or whatever else. But on Instagram, if you actually go ahead and DM me the word create, you can book a call with my VP, and she can give you some more information on either the 2-day or the entire year of working with me to help you get your first deal, and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today and just like talking the nitty gritty of all of it. It's encouraging just to hear somebody that's been through it, but more so just you validated me a little bit. I don't feel like I'm going crazy as much. So right on.
I love it. I appreciate you having me on. It was good questions. I liked it.
Awesome. All right, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in.